Good evening, everybody, and welcome to StonesCast 85, episode 84, sponsored by the ever generous team at Roll Feast. I'm Chris Lane, and I'm your host for this evening. We're recording on Thursday, a day after the impressive 2-0 victory away to Brackley after an uninspiring 6-game run without a win. With the Stones sitting pretty in the top half and the possibility of a new investor to be confirmed as soon as this weekend, things are looking rosy at the Vale, with over a quarter of the season already complete. But that all sounds far too happy clappy for our loyal listeners, so I'm sure we'll have a moan about strikers too. I'm delighted to be joined this evening by John Taffel, aka Ronnie Raffle.
Good evening.
Akhil Rawal.
Good evening, chaps.
And Luca Rossetto.
Good evening.
Now, no nonsense from you, Luca. My patience will be poppadom thin tonight, and I'll kick you out quicker than a Tamworth steward on a Wednesday night if you don't behave yourself. So, pre-warned, okay? Moving on to the games. We've had 4 since our last cast. Morecambe away, Tamworth away, Eastleigh at home, and Brackley away. Ronnie, I think you've been at all of those, probably snapping away at each of them. Let's go for Morecambe first. What was your reflections?
Morecambe, well, great weekend, but a really, really horrible day. When the rain started about 11 o'clock in the morning, heavy, and didn't stop till gone midnight. And it was just a horrible, horrible day, compounded by the fact that obviously our first half performance was pretty shocking, to say the least. Could have been more than 3-1 at half time, could have been 4 or 5-0, really. How we managed to get back into that game, I don't know. To ask Morecambe that. But fair credit, we did. And therefore, it was a real sucker punch at the end to give away another soft goal to mess up all the good work. But, you know, it wouldn't have papered over the cracks of what was an absolutely shocking first half where we were all over the place defensively. And, it was quite a hard watch.
I mean, the thing is with Morecambe, they've spent so much money, and if you look at their actual individual 4 players, they are very, very good. And because we haven't got the money to necessarily compete in that sort of like position, that forward, like sometimes you are going to get games where you come against a team that's got more money, and they're going to turn us over in a position like up front. They're just going to have better quality players up top that will take the half chances they get. But having gotten ourselves back into the game at 3-3, it was just, I don't know if he was naivety or just Chindu just being weak, but we should never have just conceded that goal. Like, what happens to the good old days of just booting into Rossetto, like when you need to? Like, we could have easily just dealt with the ball at the other end of the pitch and nothing to worry about. Also, we were so on them the entire last 10 minutes. Anytime we went forward, we looked threatening. So all you got to do is get the ball forward. They'll probably give it back to us in about 30 seconds and we can go again.
Yeah, I mean, with Morecambe, you see the result they had on Tuesday against Gateshead, and you think, wow, we went there and lost, and they lost 5-2 at Gateshead the other day. They were 4-0 up in about 20 minutes. I think us conceding the first 5 minutes didn't help. I think we have a tendency to really start games slow, and we started really slow against Morecambe. But it doesn't like Ronnie said earlier, it doesn't cover the paper cracks that defensively we were really, really bad that day. And I think we would have been very lucky to come out with a point, if I'm being truthfully honest. And obviously, I think as a player, you don't want to travel that way and perform like that. But I think the players knew that they didn't perform to any standard that they know they can.
Interestingly, about Morecambe, our players, I think Max mentioned his programme article at the weekend, and I think other players I've spoken to when I've been on the touchline with the camera sort of thing, they all were highly complimentary Morecambe. Thought they were the best team to play this season, and said they're all categorical in saying they'll be up there at the end of the season. And and look what's happened in the last week since. So it's bizarre, really.
Yeah, isn't it one of those things you always just say, oh, when you lose someone, oh, they're one of the best teams you played against. You know, like you always big up someone you lose, so it softens the blow of losing. You're not going to admit that you lost to someone and you're like, oh, they were crap. Like, and you get, especially when they blow you away in the first like 20 minutes and get you 3-0 down, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, they were awful. Like they will never, they'll be down the bottom. Like you always do try and say, oh yeah, they'll be up there. They'll do well. And I don't think the players are wrong in saying that going forwards they're great, but they've just got issues at the back, which I think every team, even we did, exploited it.
Definitely. And I think we travelled up the night before, didn't we? So we haven't got any excuses on that front. And that's come up a bit before. What do we think? I mean, I know our home form is going to be crucial this year. We really have struggled in those long northern games. Do we think that it's just one of those things, or that there's something we could be doing different in our preparation, or just we came up against a better team on the day?
Well, I mean, I think to start off with, I think the way they came at us, I think we just were quite shocked. I mean, like, I don't know what it is with us. Like I said earlier, starting game slow, but the second they started to get on top of us, we conceded a really. I mean, if you look at the goals, they're just shots outside the box, and like, can we get someone there? Can we get someone quicker out to him? Especially, if it's in the 90th minute and you're all leggy, I understand it. But they scored in the 5th minute, in the 38th minute, and the 44th minute. So it's not exactly like we should have been tired or anything. So yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just the defenders; it's the midfield and their contribution to that, not tracking their runners and sort of things. And I look at Saka saying he's been waiting for his chance, and he played, and he just showed that he wasn't chasing back his man and let one go for one of the goals. And even Alfie Massey, he'll probably look at his contribution for one of the goals and think, I should have tracked back better than I did. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I think one of those games, and I wouldn't worry too much about that for the rest of the season.
It's also, I think, a good sign for the resilience of the team, isn't it? You go 3-0 down, could easily have been 5. And I think as disappointing as it was, and as a sucker punch, as you said, Ronnie, it does show something about the team to come back. I do think in general we lack leaders a bit, particularly when Max isn't on the pitch. And, obviously Cookie and Enzio are leaders, but more via their actions, I'd say. And I do wonder sometimes whether we've got that nous on the pitch to sort of settle people down, and maybe that's an area we'd look to strengthen.
I think the comeback, and I'd say some of our performances in away games this season are better than they were under Gibson, because last season, especially the back end, we either went to teams and won, or we got absolutely pummeled. Like, there was no in between. Like you never saw a situation where, oh, it's a tight game and we've gone one down and we come back and we win it away from home. It was all think about Southend, we got beat 3-0. More Rochdale went 3-0 down. Some of the lot of away games we got comprehensively beat. And I think the fact that we did show some resilience, and I do think we look a more resilient side this year, is got to be. I think something's got to be given to the manager, because it's given them some sort of belief in the fact that they can come back. But also, I think maybe it's just our tactics are a lot better this year than they were last year, and we just feel we have more belief in the team that when we do something, even if it's going wrong, we believe in our tactics. We can get ourselves that goal, and then make sure we win, or we get a draw, we get some sort of foothold back in the game. Well, last season just felt like if we didn't score, our heads dropped, and it was just like, right, that's it, end of.
I know for me, one of my worst games of last year was Tamworth away, because new ground, midweek, we had a good turnout. It had all the makings of a really good away day. Unfortunately, I didn't make it this year, but from the reports I got, they clearly still have this horrendous, long throw that's a real weapon, and lots of tall strikers, Manny Duku in their team. But it feels like we actually switched on, other than the one moment when we didn't. But those of you that were there, did that feel like there was a little bit more nous and in that game? Did it feel like we were better prepared for Tamworth this year?
I mean,
Luca?
personally, I think for the 70 minutes that I did watch, the draw probably was a fair result. I mean, apart from, Obiero went 1-on-1 really early in the first half. They didn't really have any chances. We didn't really have any chances. We kind of cancelled each other out. So to answer your question, I think we did deal with their main threats fairly well. But on the balance of play, I think in the second half, we started a bit better. We scored, and then obviously, I think naturally you just go deeper, because obviously you're away from home. You want to hold on to your lead, and obviously then we concede. So on the balance of play, I think a point is a good result. But then if you look at the bigger picture, Tamworth are in the playoffs at the minute. They're flying up. They're absolutely flying at the minute. So in the run of form that we were in, we'd won one game in 8 at that point. They'd won numerous games. They beat not Rochdale. They just beaten Yeovil on the weekend. So in terms of a point away from home, I would have taken that before the game, and it probably was a fair result, if I'm being truthfully honest.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There were some interesting changes in our team that day. I think that was the first time we've seen Giorgio playing more in the middle of the park rather than hanging out on the left-hand side. And I thought we did really well, actually. I thought we were doing a lot of simple things very well alongside Massey. The two of them were great, I thought. Tientia came back in again. Chinedu suddenly, after his aberrations the previous week, started playing well again, which was great. I was very comfortable with the way we played that day. I thought we dealt with it all really well. And Diarra, was that his first start?
Yeah.
He did pretty well with all the aerial threats that came his way, unfortunately, apart from the one goal they did score. But I suppose just to concede one against Tamworth is, it's a good result compared with last season, which is, as you say, Chris, that was one of the worst of the whole season. So, all in all, I think that was a pretty decent night and a good performance and a good result. I thought we played well. And Obiero again, I've got to talk about Obiero again. We really are seeing a different Michael Obiero just now. And he was a pest. And teams struggle with him at the moment. And it's great to see.
No, definitely. I mean, I've been on this cast a number of times and have written him off in the same way that I have Dom Hutchinson. And I think, actually, to be fair, I think the criticism of Obiero at points in the past has been fair. I never feel it's a lack of trying on his part, but he does, a bit like in the Nathan Ferguson mould, he can look a bit languid and disinterested at times. And actually, when we've really seen him leading the line, particularly, unfortunately, compared to Sean in some respects, he's actually looked really good and actually had a threat in the same way that, although he's clearly not up to it physically at the moment, when NYC in his small amount of games, that running over the top actually really just is a different option for us rather than just holding the ball up. So I think he's definitely interesting. I think you're right. I don't know what other people thought about Obiero. I think he scored 2 and missed a sitter in the 4 games. So I still think that's a pretty good return as far as Mika goes. Akhil?
Yeah, he's done well. You think about it, there's a reason why we offered him that 2-year contract in the first place a few years back. And that was because he was performing well. He had a really good season. Just assumed he'd kick on, and then it just sort of went downhill from there. And obviously, with a smaller budget this year, he's probably lucky to still be here because the budget was smaller, and so you couldn't necessarily upgrade to get, say, someone a bit better, was not say better, but someone who had a better season last year. But this year he seems to be reinvigorated, looks sort of the same player that he was those years back, that showed us why we wanted to give him that 2-year contract. And you just got to hope that he keeps it up and keeps going. I feel like maybe Cox has been sort of defining his role a little bit more, told him what he wants from him, and he seems to be sort of receptive to the idea and seems to be liking it, and seems to be getting the best out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think with
Sorry, you go. What's his best position?
Him, as a second striker. I mean, I was going to say, I think with Obiero, I think he's very much a confidence player, and I think what Sam's done well is that we've utilised him in the things that he's good at, and you can see it. I think it's been his best return. I mean, I think he's his best return since last season already. So I think it's just with Obiero. I think if he gets the confidence to play, and like you can see, like Ronnie said, he's a pest and he's annoying to play against, and that's what you want to be. You want your striker to be annoying. Obviously, he could do with a bit of support up front, which I'm sure we will speak on. But he's definitely shown the old Michael that we know, not the one that we saw last season.
Well, let's come on to it while we're chatting about it then. So we've had the return of Olamola, who I think everyone would agree had a real impact in his first stint. I think as much as he had an impact, I still think some people were surprised to see him make that move to Bromley and then play the games he did in League Two. But he's done very well. He trialled with us, I think, a bit over the summer and was playing for the PFA team. He's come in. We've obviously got NYC and Nkrumah injured, and Sean. I mean, where do we start with Sean? He's got 3 goals. He's looked dangerous in patches when he's at his instinctive best, but he's also looked pretty poor at times. And, in terms of his shooting, in terms of his actual impact on the game, holding the ball up. Ronnie, what's your take on our forward line? Do we need to strengthen again? Can we make it work with what we've got at the moment?
I don't know. Is the honest answer. With investment, yeah, why not? Obviously, get another one in. Adarkwa, yeah. I'm disappointed in what you've been doing, and I think what struck me most with Obiero being up front is that when you watch him against compared with Adarkwa, he's looking around to see where his opponent is. He's getting his body in the way. He's doing all the things you expect a forward to do, and I can't quite work out why Adarkwa isn't doing it. He's waiting for things to happen too often, rather than trying to make things happen for himself. There's some ability there, so I guess I've got to trust the coaching team to sort of try and do something with it. We talked about he missed a sitter at Tamworth. Was it really a sitter in the last minute? I thought it was quite a difficult chance, ball coming across him, and he got a touch on it. And I think it was a tough chance. Equally, it was one that, had it been Kretschmar, I think it would have gone in. And that's the difference in terms of the quality, I think. So, yeah, Adarkwa got a lot more to prove. NYC, I want to see more of him. So I don't know how long he'll be out for. Look, at the moment, without the investment, without the budget, I'm not quite sure what we can afford to do. So we probably have to stick with where we are. Don't know. That's my take.
I think
So,
with
Akhil, looking at, I was just going to say briefly, so just looking at the table, so we've got a goal difference of +2, which is remarkable, really, when we talk about our striking woes. And we've scored, I think it's 19 goals, which is quite it puts us in the top half in terms of goals scored. So we've obviously been sharing them out as well. Is that sort of going to have to be our tactic until they sort of make it click at the top?
Yeah, it's going to have to be. We can't just rely. The thing is, we got very lucky last year with Alex Reid. Like we had a guaranteed 20-goal season striker up front for us last season, and that's never really been us. Like even when Sean was flying 2 years ago, or even with Umara, they both maybe about 15 each, maybe a little bit more, but we always still relied on goals from other parts of the pitch. We weren't just purely relying on then the main striker dragging us out of games. I think one thing, although I feel like we're being not necessarily harsh because he's not playing that well, but we all are sort of forgetting that he has been out for a year with Sean. Like he's been out for an entire year. Like he isn't just going to come back in and pick up where he left off, sort of thing. He is going to need time. He's going to have moments where he has a terrible game or he looks completely ineffective. The thing, and we just got to give him that time that, okay, like he will come back. He will get to the point where he's like, okay, fine, I will be able to score again. And also, we do, like Sean was very streaky in that first season with us. Like he did have a period where he was scoring all the time, but then he also did have patches where he wasn't scoring. So it's not unlike him to maybe go 2-3 months barely scoring a goal and then will score 5 or 6 games. Like he does have that streaky nature to his sort of play. And I think the more, like you say, we see with Obiero being a confidence player, I feel like it's probably the same with Sean. Like he is a confidence player. Like if he starts scoring a few goals, he starts getting a bit more confidence. He'll start putting himself might get himself in the right positions. He might pick up those bits and pieces that he wants and needs, so he can sort of like progress further.
Talking about streaky players, I had a note down here that I think a lot of our players have been blowing quite hot and cold this season. It's probably why we've done all right in the end, because one couple of players have a bad day, another one's come in. But think about Baptiste had a bad run. Chinadu had a bit of a mare against Morecambe. I feel like Kaji and Musa both have got some talent, but I hear that Kaji was particularly good last night. Musa's looked pretty good at times, but he's coming in and out. I don't know. What do you think, Luca? Is it just a case of consistency is going to click at some point, or we got the tools, or do we need to look to refresh the squad, particularly with Massey having incurred his injury?
Yeah, I mean, especially with Kaji and Musa, you can see the quality there. I mean, personally, I think obviously Georgie's been playing centre mid, but you take out what he has at left wing back. I mean, obviously, I know we're going to speak about it a bit later on, but our goal on yesterday comes from Georgie on the left-hand side. But obviously, with Musa and Kaji, I think, once they get their feet on the ground, I think that, and they can build a good partnership with themselves. Obviously, Massey, I doubt that's going to come back, but I think they can play together. Obviously, they've both got different strengths with them, which complement each other. I think, if we get everyone consistent and everyone singing on the same song sheet, I think, we've got a good team. Sam's got us playing really well, good football, positive football, something that we want to enjoy and enjoy watching. If we can, like for example, like you said, at Southend, I think, and the game after, it was Baptiste who, he knows himself that he's so much better than what he's been doing recently. So I think if we get our consistency between all the players, I think we can easily stay in mid-table throughout the whole season.
One thing you mentioned there, Luke, is obviously Massey's gone back. We've only used one of our 5 loan slots so far. Now that Massey's we've got 4 free loan slots. I'm a little bit surprised we haven't necessarily tapped into the loan market yet, like more into it. Like I know previously that we've always had at least a good 4 or 5 loanees at one time to sort of help build out the squad a bit. Because obviously we've lost Massey now. We've got a few other injuries as well. Like obviously Cook's out injured, and hence why Georgia having to play in midfield. And you thought we might have just maybe dipped into the loan market and maybe looked to get some cover in key areas. I'm sure. I mean, obviously, by sounds of it, all accounts, Massey was a very good pickup. Like he wasn't like everyone at Millwall says they couldn't believe he dropped down to us. They all expected him to get like a League 2 club. But he pushed to join us. So obviously, players themselves see us as an attractive outfit to start off with. And then, we do need squad depth in certain places. So I am a little bit surprised we haven't necessarily touched into that loan market a bit more. But
do you know you do on a loan or not? But the point
Yes,
stands. But there's still maybe only 2, or as you say, sort of 1 now if he's gone back. Especially with all the subs that you're allowed to have these days as well, you would have thought that there's not too much harm in having them on loan unless the parent clubs insist on them playing, as we've heard about before. We've obviously got some more of the National League Cup games coming up, Trophy and FA Cup games. I'd like to think we'll still go pretty full strength against Whitstable and in the early Trophy games, but it is good to have those fresh legs, definitely. I'm pretty much skating over Eastleigh at home because it was such a dull affair. One of the worst games I've seen Stones play for a long time. I mean, it was okay first half, I thought, but we just really didn't capitalise on the red card. I don't know. Was that a missed opportunity? Was it just one of those days? Ronnie, what did you think?
Yes, it probably was, but I thought Eastleigh defended incredibly well. And I think even when they went down to 10 men, they not only defended well, but they also pressed forward and attacked us and caused a few problems for us as well. So it was just one of those days where it just didn't seem like anything was going to work for us, no matter what we tried. Was that the first game that Olamola started? Can't remember. Again, seemed to play incredibly deep. And if people thought we were getting him in to sort of solve our striking problems, well, that showed that wasn't going to be the case if he spent most of his time at his own half. Yeah, look, too many have had off days. Kaji, who we said played really well last night against Eastleigh, he was giving the ball away for fun. So it was just one of those days. Nothing seemed to be working. Very turgid. To come out of that with a point, I'm sort of quite happy with, in a weird sort of way. You shouldn't be, having played so long against 10 men. But as I say, I think a bit of credit to Eastleigh. I thought they handled that situation pretty well.
But I think we kind of played into their hands, though. To be truthfully honest, I think we were just very slow. I think we were very slow with the ball, and we weren't making runs, movement in the final third. I think we played better against 11 men, which is quite weird because obviously when they went down to 10 men, you'd think if we sped it up a bit quicker, that a gap would open up and then we'd create a chance. But the keeper didn't have to make a save, which at home when they're down to 10 men and technically it's in your favour, I just don't think we did capitalise enough. And to be honest, I think Eastleigh did have the best chance of the game. And again, that was towards the end. So I think again, happy with the point, respect the point, but I just don't think we did enough to try and win the game.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, can we go?
I just think that there's only ever going to be one winner in that game, and it was always going to, and it just looked like it was going to be Eastleigh. Like they just, I mean, you're right. Like we were slow, and I just think we were too sloppy in possession far too often. Like, there was times where we could have broke quickly, or we could have done stuff quicker, and we just knocked the ball out or held on to the ball a second too long. And actually, this is a gripe I have in football, like currently, and it's something that, again, especially as 10 men, I don't understand why we do. It's the fact that we just didn't leave anyone forward from any of the set pieces. So they've got a corner, and we've got all 10 outfield players or all 11 of our players in the box. Like, just leave one forward. It then basically means that they've got to leave an extra player back. And it means that if we do clear the ball, there's someone already there who can pick the ball up and then maybe hold on for it and then help us push forward. If we are so defensive constantly with players sat like in the box all the time, especially when you're in tight games, like if you keep yourself penned in, clear the ball, go straight to a player who knocks at someone else, and they can maintain that pressure on you. By having someone further forward, it takes out an attacking player from their perspective. But it also means that if we do get it clear, there's an opportunity for them to get the ball, hold it up, and allow us to get out of that area and create potentially a further chance. And when you're against 10 men, I don't understand why we couldn't have just left at least one player up there.
I completely agree with that, Akhil. And I think we saw one of the Baptiste Georgiou errors from a few weeks ago resulted from, I don't know, I can't remember if it was a corner or a set piece, but basically they had two players up front. It was a one-on-one. For me, if we've got Obiero and someone like Hutchinson, they're not really going to be in there winning headers. Let's have them up there, stretch the team. There must be a reason why coaches don't do it, because it doesn't happen that often. But I think you're right. I think that would be really good. The other thing that I found quite surprising is that we're a really big team this year. I don't feel that we've translated that into goal threat. I mean, perhaps Jack Cook, famously among our defenders, has been a goal threat in the past, but I don't know. Is that something we should be looking to improve? I don't know. Presumably, we do some set piece training during the week.
I think we do seem to have a plan this year for set pieces, but it doesn't help when your corners are either overhit or underhit or don't, or they're just floaty and they allow the keeper to come out and get them. Like, I can't remember who we were playing. I think it might have been Gateshead. And we had Chinedu, Cook, and who was the other centre back that day? It wasn't Diarra.
Woodman.
Probably Woodman.
Yeah, Woodman. So we had those three centre backs on the pitch, all big physical presences, and then we're hitting floaty corners in that are too close to the goalkeeper. Like, either you go deep and you have them deep, or you have them somewhere else in the box, but you can't hit floaty balls that are easy or close to keeper that he can come and get. Like, you either hit him with pace so that he's nervous about coming, or you hit it deep so it's just impossible, or you have someone attack the front post and you make it a position that he can't actually get the ball. Because in that game we had so many set pieces and they kept getting the ball and was just, and then made it like no impact. It's no point having three big units if you're not going to hit them.
I think it was quite funny as well. I'm going back to Morecambe now. We had a free kick in the last minute of the game, last kick of the game. We've brought on Diarra and Jakuna shot. You'd think in the last minute of the game, you've brought on someone who's 6'5", who's going to win 9 out of 10 headers, and you've gone for a shot. And it's like we have got height in our team, but I don't think we're using it to the effect that we can, especially with George's left foot. Unreal. When if you guys remember Yeovil last season, he put it on, I think it was Grant's head. It's just straight on his head. Like, he's got a great left foot, and I just don't think we're using it as much. But yeah.
Problem is, though, like, it is the 90th minute. I don't blame Shakuna for shooting. I actually thought Georgia was going to take it and shoot. Like, I wouldn't. You got to go for goal. Like, there's no point drifting that ball in and they win the header and knocking it back, and everyone will be like, "Oh, why didn't you shoot?" If you know what I mean? Like, you're screwed if you do. You're screwed if you don't.
Yeah,
like,
it's double-edged sword, really. But
Yeah.
It's the same old problem, isn't it? Not hitting the target. We don't do it often enough. Simple as, haven't done it for decades. Yeah.
Last night, then I couldn't make it, unfortunately. But those of you that were there, Vincing win, another clean sheet. All positives. Again, Brackley, in recent times at least, notwithstanding the Sean Cronin famous game and goal, the memories I have are of the FA Trophy and them completely turning us over. And strange, they've sort of started the season relatively well, and having spent years trying to get up, but sort of the reports I was getting is that they would sort of struggle if they carry on like that. I don't know what you felt, Ronnie, about last night.
It was excellent. It's just such a high, really. I mean, for me, we've been on a bad run, and the one win in that run was against Southend, and I missed that one. So I've not seen us win since I think Woking. So for me, a real high point. I thought we played ever so well, really did. Great to see Conor McAvoy back on the pitch, starting again, and he looked so assured and so calm, and he looked like Conor McAvoy when he first joined us. Completely different from what we saw when he came back in the second loan spell with us. I thought he looked great. It was always the plan, apparently, for him to only play 45 minutes because he's coming back. So there's no injuries, no worries there at all. But I thought he was great. They're all very good, but I thought he shone. I thought Mike Robiero obviously shone, and a great cracking goal to finish it. And I spent that second half, obviously at that end where Robiero scored, and I was chatting with a Brackley fan pretty much all half. And when he first started talking to me, he said to me, "Will's not always this good." And I had to explain to him what we normally like and how this was a bit unusual. But I also had to explain to him that I really couldn't understand the way that Brackley played against us either. It was as if they'd never seen us play before, because we know what we like when teams press us, and they just didn't press us at all. They just let us play our game, and that played right into our hands. And we showed what we could do when teams let us do that. And to have a performance like that, probably our best of the season, who'd have thought we'd be doing that without Cook in the team, without Kretschmer in the team, without Massey in the team, who, you'd probably have them your first 3 names on your team sheet, probably. Interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on what Ronnie said, I think it was probably our most complete performance of the season so far. I think, going forward, we always looked like we were going to create something. Defensively, we looked assured on the ball. We were keeping the ball for large periods of the time. And obviously, when you keep the ball as a defender, you'll keep moving. You're gonna get tired, and the spaces appeared. I think 2-0 probably was the right scoreline. Obviously, I didn't see the second goal because I was in the concourse, but for the game, I think we deserve to win. Nice to keep another clean sheet with the one that we got on Saturday. We took our chances well. Obviously, Obiero's goal was, obviously seeing the replay, it was fantastic. But yeah, it was really complete. I think obviously, yeah, we've won 1 game in 9, but we haven't lost many of them. And I think obviously if we're gonna be down there towards the end of the season, which obviously I hope we're not, like the points that we've got in that little blip, which I think will come good to us towards the end of the season. But I think if that's the benchmark for the rest of the season and how we want to play, I think that's where it needs to be. And the thing is, we can be better, and that's the exciting thing. We can be better than that. So yeah, Conor McAvoy, a real breath of fresh air coming back in. Obviously, I do feel a bit bad for him. Obviously, he got injured on loan in Scotland, which ended his loan period. He was out for a long time. He's come back in, got injured straight away, and I think he can't catch a break at the minute. But it's really nice for him to come in. If there was a plan to play 45 minutes, that was a great 45 minutes to try and get up to speed and stuff. But yeah, I think I couldn't think of anything negative out of Wednesday, which for once is really pleasing because usually there's something I've got to moan about. But no, I'm really, really happy. So hopefully we can carry that on to Saturday and moving forward. But if that's the benchmark, then that's what it needs to be at.
Yeah, I think
Did you see the
right.
post-match? Sorry, did you see the post-match interview with the Brackley manager?
I didn't know.
It was very good. He basically said how good Wealdstone were, sort of slick and fast and hungry and incisive. He sounded like our manager should be talking about our team. It's very rare to hear that from an opposing manager. You normally get people sort of saying, "Oh, Wealdstone were lucky. Wealdstone this, Wealdstone that." No, breath of fresh air. Fantastic.
And I think what we have done well is, as Luca said, although it's been a while without a win, we haven't lost all those games. And that was one of the great elements of Stuart Maynard's success, is we never had sort of 3 losses in a row. We always managed to pull a win out of somewhere, keep accumulating those points, which kept us out of the relegation zone. Because I think mentally that is a huge thing. You look at some of the teams down there on 7 points and you think they're already starting to look a little bit stranded. They've got to get 11 points to even get on par with where we are. So I think that's a really positive start. I think when you look back at the start of this season and the end of last season, we obviously just about survived. Budget slashed, new manager, lots of new players. Also, lots of players that were retained and have been playing, which I think, admittedly, I also would have queried at the start of the season that they'd be good enough. So, your Obieros, your fella coming back in, obviously, as a known quantity, Hutchinson, Dion Woodman, look at how far he's come on. And I think we've done really, really well so far. And actually, you look at the league, I think there's about 7 or 8 teams that will definitely beat us sort of 8 times out of 10. But I think we'll give a lot of the rest of the teams a good battle. And I've not really noticed the budget element quite as much as I thought I might have done. So I don't know what other people think. We're about just over a quarter way through the season. Are we looking up or are we looking down, Akhil?
Oh, we're still always looking down. Like you can't let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like survival is by far the most important thing, and until we get to those 50, 51 points that we need, I'm not looking anywhere up. But once we do get to that point, then we can start looking upwards. But if we get there with like 3 or 4 games to go, that's great. What you don't want to be is getting like we've had the last couple of seasons, which is last day, and you're like, oh, like we could still go down. That was the one really good thing about our Maynard's stewardship was we never, even though we always were looking down, we never felt ever in jeopardy of going down. Like we were just making sure, like, yeah, we're still X amount of points to clear them. We're still clear them. We're still quite comfortable. We're still going to be in this division, and that's the thing. Is like, especially with our budget, staying up is just a massive achievement in the first place. So to do so without necessarily, obviously, keeping an eye on your shoulder, but not constantly looking over your shoulder, will be quite nice. I think that's the sort of thing that our start sort of given us so far. Is we've got 18 points ready this season, over a third of the way to the total that we need to survive, and yet we're still not even a quarter way through the season. So definitely puts us in a like more comfortable position as we have been in previous years. So like, think about this time last year, we were bottom or second bottom in the league. So nice to actually go to away games and not just accept that we're going to lose or we'll be winning and we'll blow it and end up with a draw sort of thing. Like, we've got some confidence to go into these games and feel like, yes, we can go win there.
Should he be a bit more optimistic, Ronnie? Are you sort of keeping a half eye on the playoffs if we carry on like we are, or is that hoping for too much?
No. I'm very much with Akhil. I think we had a great result last night against a team that didn't play particularly well, so you can't get carried away on the back of one great performance, because we know we've got some much tougher challenges coming up. We got York in a couple of weeks, for example, and who knows against Stuart Maynard what the game's going to be like. They're having a bit of stuff or two, but no, we've got some real tough games coming up. So definitely, let's just keep chipping away, and if we can keep sort of getting these points, these draws, not too, don't start putting together a run of defeats again. I think we'll be all right. And again, the unknown quantity for us still is this investment, what that might bring for us. And no, we got a really good group at the moment. I think it's so much better than we all thought it would be come kick-off time at the start of the season. I think we're definitely ahead of where we were last season, significantly, I'd say, in terms of what we got in the squad and the depth of the squad.
I think it probably says a lot about him and what he's done is that we're not really talking about Sam at all. I'm not 100% sure I know exactly what his philosophy is. I think that he likes to get the ball wide. I feel we could be a bit quicker, have a bit more tempo. Sometimes I liked it when Massey was in the middle, when he drove the game forward. But I think we've all got to take our hats off to him. I said a couple of weeks ago when I was on the cast that he probably wouldn't have always been my first choice, but I think he's done exceptionally well. He's been really engaging with the fans. He hasn't brought up too many excuses with the recent sort of run of bad form, and he seems to have kept the group together as well. So I think good on him. I don't know what, Luca, do you think Sam, is any questions about Sam now answered? We've obviously got, if new investment comes in, that's often a way owners go. Would you sort of stick with him for the remainder of the season and beyond?
Oh, I mean, definitely, for sure. I mean, there's nothing at the moment to suggest, anything otherwise, to be honest. I think one thing with Sam, you can tell how tight the group are. I know he says it in his interviews and stuff, but you can see it. And like, obviously, I think with the investment proposal coming in, there's a real buzz around the group. I think they know it as well. But I wanted to go back to what you asked earlier about the obviously where we are and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think obviously our home form in the last couple of seasons have been pivotal for us to, to stay up in this division. And obviously our away form has always been crap, to put it bluntly. I think obviously this season our home form, we've started pretty well. But surprisingly, we've actually done okay away from home. Last season we won 4 games away from home. This season we've already won 2, and we've just started October. So I think in terms of are we looking up or are we looking down? To be honest, I'd look to just stay where we are. To be truthfully honest, I think, like you said, Chris, there's probably 7 teams in this league where you'd think 9 times out of 10 they'd probably beat you. But then the remaining teams, you're like, if we turn up, we can give them a game. We can go nick 3 points and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, with Sam, he's a face around the club. He's approachable. You can speak to him about anything. After the game, he came over to us, and he went, "What do you think of that?" And we turned around and basically said, "That was shit." And he went, "Yeah," because he knows. But the thing is, you don't get that at other clubs on this level, because you just don't. But you can tell he cares a lot as well, and that it kind of means a lot to us as fans as well, because you don't want a manager that's quite distant, which we've had previously. But he's tight-knit. He's got a good group. You can tell the group want to play for him. We're obviously going to have periods of time where we're going to have a bad run of form, etc., like we just done. But I think if we can get a run going, which I know Akhil mentioned, Akhil's mentioned that we've got the next couple of games are a good chance to get some more points on the board, which obviously we'll speak about. But yeah, Sam wasn't obviously my first choice. I personally, when he got announced, I thought it was a lazy appointment. If I'm being truthfully honest, I said that. But he's, proved me wrong, which I'm happy he's done so.
Definitely. What do we think then, looking ahead to Altrincham, and then come back in on that point as well, Akhil? But with Altrincham, they've got 5 losses on the trot, and it's always that window, isn't it, just before FA Cup weekend? If we win that, then I think that's, is it 8 points out of a possible 15? And that feels like we're really on a roll then. Obviously, a draw would be a reasonable result too. Do you see that as not lose, or do you think there's one we can try and win on Saturday? And obviously, any reflections on Sam as well?
I mean, just going back to Sam quickly, like you said, he wasn't, I don't think he was anyone in this group's first choice. And arguably, he failed upwards because he went to Oxford, an absolute shocking time there, and was let go, and was managing in the Ballers League. And it was just, it did scream a bit of desperation when he got hired, because you're like, well, we can't get anyone who's competent at this level to sort of manage us. I know he obviously kept us up for those last little stint, but keeping teams up and putting a bit of belief in them for 3 or 4 games, getting them to stay up, is very different to managing for the season. But he seemed to, I noticed it when I went to the first pre-season game, there was a clear plan of action about how he wanted to play and how to get us going. And it seems that it has continued into the season. He's not sort of neglected it and moved on to new ideas. So you got to tip your hat to him and hope he keeps it going. Obviously, just switching back to Alty at home. I know they've lost 5 on the trot, but they're not a side you can necessarily write off too soon. Of course, we all want to win. That'd be outstanding, but a draw is still going to be a useful result. We've got, again, at the beginning of the season, if you're looking at the games, you're thinking, right, this is where I want to get 3 points, and this is where you'll take a point, whatever, or you expect a loss. You definitely would thought Alty would be up there with the I'll take a point sort of clubs. You weren't getting too far ahead of yourself. But although, like I said, 5 losses on the trot, they may be a bit vulnerable, a bit. Maybe we could get the nice couple of goals and nice couple of wins and set us up nicely into the FA Cup weekend.
And then, Ronnie, looking ahead to Whitstable, is that just an absolute banker? I'll come to Luca in a minute, because I know he likes to get into Twitter disputes over these sort of things. to be honest, I personally think if we don't beat Whitstable, we need to ask serious questions of ourselves. It's the best draw we could get. But, for you, Ronnie, is, even more so than me, having the number of years you've been following the Stones where we have to start in FA Cup qualifying round 2, to just have that one game is an absolute delight, isn't it?
It is to get that kind of draw after some of the draws we've been used to getting year in, year out. Of course, it's a dream draw. I don't know when Whitstable last lost a cup match, because obviously they went on this incredible run last year in the FA Vase when they won it for the first time. I saw 2 of their games in that run, and one of them, I think they were 2-0 down in about the quarter final against one team, Whitchurch Allport, I think it was, and they came back and won it. And I saw them win the final at Wembley. They're a decent team, and they've obviously got a huge amount of confidence, and they carried on into this season as well. So look, of course we should beat them. If we play half as good as we played yesterday, we should beat them easily. But we know it's not like that in the FA Cup, and they're going to come and probably throw absolutely everything at us, I reckon. And for sure, we don't want to replay. They got a plastic pitch down there at Whitstable. And I wouldn't want to go down there on a Tuesday night, particularly. Let's get the job done. We should do it convincingly, but I can't. Look, I don't even know how. I don't think Sam knows what his best team is at the moment. I've got no idea what the starting lineup is going to be one game to the next at the moment. It's an interesting one, but we've got to put our best team out, what he believes is the best team out, and win that game as quickly as we can.
Does that include Sean, Luca?
I mean, I think it would be a good game for him to get a goal, build a bit of confidence. I mean, going back to what you said about my Twitter remarks, I didn't say anything out of line. I literally said it's the best draw we could have got, because
completely agree.
It is literally the best thing we could have got. The lowest ranked team at home. You look at that on paper and go, if we don't win that game in 90 minutes on next Saturday, we've got to look at ourselves. In a way, obviously, I know it's 2 different competitions, but if we don't win next Saturday, it kind of takes away the good start of the season we've had. Because, I know you guys have obviously been following much longer than I have, but we've been, crying for a cup run. Obviously, last year we had, we had Gosport, and we had the highs of Grimsby, then the missed chances at Wickham. But why can't this be the year that we go that step further, and we get a big Premier League team at home, or we go to a proper stadium? Well, you know what I mean by proper. Maybe it's our turn, but I think we've been given the best draw, and we could have possibly got. And I mean, I think it's a good chance to go I'd still go as full strength as I can, if I'm being truthfully honest. There's no reason to rotate. It's a chance to hopefully implement more of Sam's style of play, and ideally thumping them, if I'm being truthfully honest. The longer we leave it to scoring, the more nervous everyone will be getting. I think we need to start quick, because they're going to start quick. They're going to have a firework up their arse by their manager. They are. This is probably going to be the biggest, their second biggest game that they've played. They played at Wembley in May, but now they've got a chance to get to the first round of the FA Cup. So for us, it should just be a routine win, go through the next round, see you on BT Sport next week. But the Wilson we're talking about.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? We still remember all those days. I guess the other one I'm looking at, Akhil, I'm sure you are, although I don't know if you're planning to go to Truro or not. Truro are playing AFC Tottenham away, who are flying high in the NLS. So for those that haven't followed it, our game against Truro, I think it's the 6th of December, away tie is the same day as the FA Cup second round. So if either of us are still in the competition, that game would be moved perhaps to a Tuesday night, or maybe one of the free Saturdays in the new year. Were you planning to go to Truro? Presumably second round of the cup would trump everything.
Of course it would.
We've got to win 2 games to get there first, I hasten to say.
True. I mean, one thing I think we also sort of glossed over is the financial impact of actually getting into the first round and then hopefully in the second round. Like by us getting into the first round or even second round last year meant we could have afforded Josh Grant for the season, and it is quite lucrative to actually progress in the FA Cup. So we should be putting out a full strength side. Like we should be trying to get as far as possible in this competition. Like us getting to maybe the second or third round of the FA Cup is far better than us winning the trophy financially, from a financial standpoint. So we should be looking to like focus on that competition and get as far as possible. In regards to Churro, you know what's going to happen. We're going to get knocked out by Whitstable Bay, and Churro are going to get to the third round of the FA Cup. So yeah, it will be a Tuesday.
Yeah.
It'll be a cold Tuesday night in probably January or February. One which I will not be making because I'm not wasting a day of annual leave to watch us lose at Churro on a Tuesday night. Let's just say that.
It'll be a new
We have done it before. We have done it before.
Yeah.
And years ago, we went down there on a cold, wet Tuesday night, and Danny Green scored an absolute screamer from memory.
Was it one of his very few free kicks, wasn't it?
It wasn't even a free kick. It was like, no, it wouldn't have been a free kick, obviously. It was open play. Clearly wouldn't have been a free kick. That's ridiculous.
I feel like I remember that Tom Marshall and a couple of his mates got the overnight train for the game. So a lot of respect for them for doing that. I don't somehow now in my 30s, I don't think I could probably do that anymore.
It's a new ground.
It is one we can tick off. I don't know. We'll see. Push comes to shove.
I'll be there regardless if it's a Saturday or a Tuesday. We've all planned it out.
Very good, because there's some cheap flights down there as well. I mean, Akhil's point is right about the money, but I also think that in terms of potential gates, we've already seen a couple of times this season Woking away, particularly. I know that was the tail end of the summer holidays. Really good away following, particularly from the younger fans. I know there was a good turnout by all accounts yesterday at Brackley from some of the younger fans. What you've definitely seen is the likes of Boreham Wood, when they've had the cup run, they get loads of fans turn up. Now, what they haven't got, I don't think, is the same feel about their club and infrastructure to retain them, and their attendances dwindle. What we have seen during our time in the Vale is that incremental increase in fan numbers, and we know that we are second clubs to lots of people, and that's why we fluctuate sometimes. But the number of kids, I think Darren came out a couple of weeks ago saying there was about 700 season tickets for youngsters, and you can imagine that we suddenly get half a chance of playing Liverpool or Man United in the third round, or even we get a Wrexham again in the second round, someone like that, or another big club in the Championship. It really can have a catalysing effect, and alongside the investment and everything else is going on, I really hope we throw a lot of effort. And I know there will never be a lack of effort, but it's always struck me that for those players, for them to really understand, actually that win really could be transformational for our season if we get 2 or 3 wins in the FA Cup. So definitely something to look forward to. Looking ahead to Saturday, we've mentioned it a little bit. We've got the emergency general meeting coming up, which is to review the offer from Nick Samaka and his company to invest in the Stones and ultimately move towards taking a controlling stake. I think we need to be a little bit careful about the specifics of what we go into, because not everything is in the public domain and has been shared with shareholders, but it'd be useful just to get everybody's feelings. Ronnie, you're obviously a long-standing fan. You've seen the club at its heights back in 85 and before, and then the lows at particularly Northwood and Yedding and other places. What's your view as a long-standing fan? Do we have to just bite his hand off? Are there still some questions to be asked?
No, I think we do. I think the questions were asked at the supporters club meeting a few weeks back. I sort of set out the way I saw things. I think the club is at a crossroads. We're we can't afford to maintain our National League status in its current format. If we don't get investment coming in to our club, then we will go down, and we'll go down several divisions. I think the newer support that we've attracted over the last 10, 15 years will fade away. Some of the old people who've been watching us for years will carry on watching us, but they'll eventually get old and die, and with it the club will die as well. So look, it's a tough one because a lot of people have fought long and hard to keep the club in the form that it currently is. We call it a fans club, for want of a better phrase, if you like. But a lot of people have fought very hard, some really difficult battles over the years. And we're asking people now to say, you know what, they're in the past now. We've now got a future. We're going to hand it over anyway and keep our fingers crossed that it's all going to work out okay. That's what we've got to do. On the face of it, this particular investor, he said all the right things. And of course, he's going to say all the right things, but he generally seemed a good guy and a good fit for our club. And but I'm behind it. And I think everyone I talk to on terraces or in the pubs or whatever it might be, for the most part, everyone's behind it. There's only been a couple of voices against it, and I understand why. But I think this is the only way we can go.
Yeah, I mean, I think with potential investment into the club, I think you'd be silly to abstain from it, if I'm being truthfully honest. We've been crying out for it for ages, and I didn't personally go to the fans meet with him. However, with the people I've spoken to, it was mainly positive, and I think people might say it's a calculated risk or a gamble, but I think it's something that's probably been thoroughly talked through, explained to, etc. So I think the board have been excellent in a lot of the decisions they've made in the last couple of years, and I think this is probably the correct decision. And I think you'd be silly not to be on board with it, to be honest.
I mean, obviously, as Ronnie said, you said all the right things, and about any investor, anyone's trying to get someone on board would say the right things, especially someone who's done well in business. But what we can look with Nick is you can look at his track record, and he went in late Orient, has done a good job, did a good job there before selling out there. He obviously had that baseball team which he sold to Bill Murray. And then also you can see his current project with the team in Germany. They're a fourth tier division team in Germany. They're now in the Die Bundesliga. So he obviously does have a track record of coming to clubs doing well. And also one thing should be noted especially with Orient and this German team, is they haven't gone out and spunked a load of money on superstars. It's not like they're spending well above their means to push out, because you can't do that in the National League, because there's always a bigger fish than you, and there's always someone who's willing to spend more than you. So you can't just be like, come in, look, I'm going to spunk a couple mil, because that's peanuts in this league. But also you can't just do that and assume you'll go up, because there's loads of teams throwing loads of money around. So from what we've heard from his plan and his track record, he does seem like a good fit for the club. So he's got to, fingers crossed, hope he plays out well, and both of us benefit well from the deal. Yeah. Also, sorry, just one thing that popped back into my head was, with his track record and him doing well, you're hoping that he can tap into markets of individuals that we're not able to currently reach. And hopefully, if we start doing well, hopefully they'll be interested in what he's doing, and maybe they'll look to invest, and we can start them building up and getting a bit more sustainable model of more people investing and getting the money that can help propel us up the leagues, rather than relying on one man who, if say something went wrong and Nick was unhappy, he could pull his money out tomorrow, and then we're back to square one. So you're hoping that he can do something like that. Also, with him looking to invest in the club, we look to be a bit more solid. it can help with the new ground move, because they'll see that there's a bit more funds behind it. It can see there's a lot more longer term vision with the club, rather than our current situation where we're sort of just surviving year on year. That you can see that like it can help again get investors involved in maybe trying to develop the land and the other bits of land that we're not going to use for the club, or it will make the council feel a bit more comfortable about us being in a position to build on that land and have the funding to do so now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, having just spent my last couple of weeks at work talking to government about like housing and planning, we've got a really strong wind behind us at the moment in terms of if we can get the funding together, there's a real desire to build houses, to build community assets, and I think, on that type of land. And I think we really need to get behind it. I think you raised a couple of interesting points there, Akhil. One, the amount of money, we're not going to get into specifics. Let's call it 1.25 billion. I think has been floated around. That sort of money might be some sort of initial investment. That's massive for a club like Wealdstone, but in National League terms, it's really not that much at all. So I think it will continue to be a step-by-step process. I think one of the really interesting things will be what other investors he's able to bring in. The really interesting podcast that he was involved in, which I think many people listening will have watched, he did actually make the specific point that he wanted to have control of a club, because I think in the Bundesliga there are limits on that, and obviously at Leyton Orient that was a minority stake. So I think that would be really interesting for him, and that will give him, ownership and responsibility. I think what will be really interesting with that is what ongoing relationship current state shareholders have, and principally among those being the supporters club. And I know there's a commitment to having some representation on the board. For me personally, and I also missed the last meeting, so I don't know if this was picked up. Maybe Ronnie could comment whether some of our current directors who've done such sterling work for the club will continue to be involved in any way. If indeed they want to, they may feel that they're due a well-deserved rest. But I do think we as supporters are going to have to think, we're putting our trust in this new entity and this new man, and I can only agree that he comes across very well. How is the best way to continue to be involved? And I've spoken to lots of fans who are really keen on the investment but want to keep hold of their own shares so that they can go along to the meetings. And I think that's perfectly valid. But I don't know how many shares you need. Is one enough to be able to do that? Should we all be clubbing our shares together for the supporters club so that they've got a voice? And does it even matter how many shares they have if it's not controlling? And I think that's going to be a really fascinating dynamic. And, I think it is a bit of a leap of faith, but I think we need to do it. But yeah, Ronnie, what do you think? Because you know a lot of people that have been involved with the club running it over the years. Do you think there's still a place for them?
I think so. And I think one of the things that Nick made quite clear was that when he was in discussions with the club, he was actually, he liked the people. He could see what they were like, their history, their background, what they've been doing. And I think he'd like to use those people. And now I can't speak for the others about those who are working for the club now, your Darrens and your Doms and your Rorys, to what extent they're going to want to keep being involved. But I suspect, because they're like us, they're supporters, they'll want to keep involved. And they'll be probably quite happy not to be as involved, I would suggest. It's got a bit, heavy the last year or two, I think. So, look, we'll wait and see. But I think the fact that he's interested in the people, because the people make the club in many respects, I think there's place for a lot of people. And, any supporter, you, me, one share is enough to keep going to meetings. That's all you need. You can still be involved.
That sounds good. And I think inevitably there will be, for all the goodwill, there will be some missteps along the way. We've seen that in the past in the professionalisation of our club, and where we are now compared to even when we started at the Vale is just night and day. And I think we have to bear that in mind sometimes. The club is a very different entity to what it was, certainly in terms of the infrastructure and the people that are involved. The heart of the club's still there, but I think this is the next stage on our kind of transition. And if people want to sort of keep it exactly as it is, that probably means us going down. And that's definitely something I think it was talked about in one of the previous casts, that it really was a sliding doors moment at the end of last season. You look at how Dagenham are doing. I think that the start we've had, the possible investment, potential good news on the ground, all of that could have been in reverse had we not stayed up. So I think if Lady Luck shines kindly on you, you've got to make the most of it, I think.
What do you think?
The
risks I see.
Sorry,
just one more thing. The risk really at the moment, this weekend's vote is purely upon amending the legal structure of the club to allow the investment to happen. If it happen, if they can go ahead, it will only happen if the lease gets sorted out, and that's still hanging over us. And we keep being told we're close, but that is one still risk, I have to say. Longer term, I say this guy, he looks like a great guy, but the question has to be asked, if in time he decides he wants to move on, where do we go next? And that's the big risk for the club today, is that we don't really know what the future holds beyond Nick Semica. At the point in time Nick Semica decides his time is up.
Yeah, and I think for me that's a reason why maintaining a strong supporters club, and I think the supporters club do a lot of really great things, but I'm not sure, particularly since Mark Randall's not been part of the board, there's been quite a separation. Whereas I know growing up in the 90s, they're watching Wealdstone, there was a real overlap in supporters club and club stewardship, and people made that progression. And I think it's important that within the club we continue to keep very close eye on things, and it's good to know that the lawyers have got lots of clauses in place to protect the integrity of the club and the badge and the name, etc., etc. But I think you're right, it's that sort of future question, and there's no getting away from the fact he has sold stakes in clubs. You'd hope that would only be because he's been brilliantly successful and he can't afford to take us on to the next level. But yeah, I think we've got to take that punt, but just do it with our eyes open. Luca, your generation, is there guys that are sort of 25 and under and have been coming for the last sort of 6, 7, 8 years, probably only really seen us in maybe tail end of the NLS and up into the National League? Do you think that, do you see us, have you always thought of us as becoming a League 2, League 1 club with some investment, or, do you feel like we'd come as far as we could go, really?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've been quite lucky in the sense that I've only seen up, if that makes sense, and I think you see on Twitter and you see on social media where smaller clubs are going. Our ambition by 2040 is to be in the Football League, and I think with us, with a club like Wealdstone, right, is building foundations, and what we've done in the last couple of seasons is build foundations, and I think naturally as a progression it is to step up, and obviously we wouldn't be anyone's standing up favourite or to go up or to climb up the leagues, but it shouldn't be, nothing should stop us. And I think generally with someone who actually wants to invest in the club, and obviously with the plans we've got forward, with obviously the new ground, I think why wouldn't anyone want to be part of this long-term project? Obviously now we need to think of in the next the first 2, 3, 4 years, but then you've got to start thinking about what does the club want in the next 10 years? What does the community, what does the people around the club want in the long term? So yeah, I mean, why not? Why wouldn't it be something that we want to achieve?
And I think one of the great things, hopefully, and it won't come straight away, is the infrastructure is what is crucial for the club. The continued professionalisation, even now, I think the existing media team or the outgoing media team did a really good job. It's not an easy job. There's lots of volunteers there, but I understand it. We've now got a completely new media team, somebody who's effectively going to be full time, and that's just yet another step towards us, feeling like we belong. And as I said earlier, I don't look at us in this league anymore and think that we're a definite struggler. I mean, we definitely are in terms of the finances, but it does feel like we're a lot more established, and hopefully that's something we can continue to build on. And you look at other clubs and the number of staff they've got. We don't want to be throwing money away on things we don't need, but actually having that stability and feeling like we've got a longer term plan definitely helps with that investment too. So we've covered a lot of ground today. Was there anything else anyone wanted to cover before we finish off?
No.
Just one thing struck me just watching the opening titles actually, and obviously it showed the 1966 team at Wembley going around, and so yeah, probably a highlight of my last month was up at Morecambe because Hughie Lindsay, who played in '66, he was up there watching the game because his son has moved to lives in Lancaster now, so he was up there for the weekend, and the weather was so bad, and Hughie's son very kindly offered to give us a lift back into the town centre from the football ground, and he came into the pub with Hughie and me and Roger, and had a pint after the game. And Hughie would have stayed there all night, I'm sure he would have done, but unfortunately his son made him go home. But just to sit in a pub of an evening with a '66 legend after a game was listen to his stories and memories, and it was just a highlight of the last month for me, even though we'd lost.
Yeah, and I think that's a real testament, isn't it, to the club that, you know, you've seen it with Cox. It obviously suits him at the moment because he's back as manager, but you see it with a number of ex-players that do come back across generations to all our games, and I think it's a great sign, and long may it continue. So thank you all for your company this evening. I don't think we've got any coaches that are coming up. One thing I'm going to plug, I'm realising Ronnie's in his Worldstone shirt. The nearest I could find was my Worldstone apron, supporters club shop. Adam, I don't know if you still do it. Much better than Luca's Harabara top that he looks like he's wearing. So
It's a pink dry fit.
Oh, right. Of course it is. Thank you again to Roll Feast for sponsoring the podcast. Really appreciate that support and hope that everybody will join us for StonesCast 85's 85th episode on the 11th of October. Hopefully we'll still be in the cup. We've got a juicy first round draw against somebody we've barely heard of and that Luca can annoy online. And we've also picked up 3 points against Altrincham. We can but hope. Until then, up Stones.
Up Stones.
Stones.